Welcome, dear friends, to the Crimson Academy's course, Exploring the Advent of Divine Justice. Dear friends, we are on part 2 of part 12. And without any further ado, I want to wish everyone a happy Ayamiha, and we'll have our opening prayers. Thank you. Mona Bayat, could you please say the opening prayer? Thank you. And then Ella. Thank you.
Ella's going to say it.
Thank you very much. Ella, you are first. Thank you.
Oh God, guide me, protect me, illumine the lamp of my heart, and make me a shining lamp and a brilliant star. Thou art the mighty and powerful Adobaha.
I love it. Thank you very much, Ella. Okay. Welcome, everyone. Happy Ayamiha to every one of you. So good to see your smiling faces. And let us get into another wonderful session, okay? So, let me do my share screen. Okay, here we go. Here we go. And open it up. There we go. And this is paragraph 47. For everyone that this starts such a chaste and holy life. Let me see it in my book. It starts on page 25 on this book. And in this book, it starts on page 45 in this book, just for references for everyone, keeping up. Okay, excellent. Now, let's have a reader on this. Dear Dawn, could you read this?
Yes, I can.
Go for it, dear Dawn.
Such a chaste and holy life, which its implications of modesty, purity, temperance, decency, and clean-mindedness, involves no less than the exercise of moderation in all that pertains to dress, language, amusements, and all artistic and literary avocations.
Excellent. Thank you. So this is the opening line of paragraph 47. We read this one earlier. I just wanted to refresh on these 5 qualities of a chaste and holy life. Let me move to now. We're going to jump to part number 37, actually right here. So this is my little Ayamiha, okay? So I wanted to wish every one of you a happy Ayamiha, okay? Now, can anyone remember, we're going to scroll back for just a minute. Can anyone remember the 7 qualities of rectitude of conduct? Remember, this is a class. We want you to have good recall, as you're going through it. So can anyone recall the 7 qualities of rectitude of conduct? And
truthfulness, fair-mindedness, justice, equity,
reliability.
Very nice. Who said reliability? Excellent. That's a hard one.
Yeah.
Good, good.
honesty.
Honesty. I think that was all of them. Excellent. Great job, all of you. Excellent. So it's justice, equity, truthfulness, honesty, fair-mindedness, reliability, and trustworthiness. So these are the 7 qualities and attributes that define rectitude of conduct, right?
Right.
So then there are 5 qualities that define a chaste and holy life, okay? And can anyone define any of those so far? We just saw them in Dear Dawn reading. Can anyone recall any of them? We covered a few of them last session.
Modesty,
Modesty,
purity,
purity,
temperance,
temperance,
decency,
Clean-Mindedness.
clean-mindedness.
Excellent, all of you. You probably were looking at the book, right? Excellent. Good job, everyone. That's right. Those are the 5 qualities. Okay. So those, and in our last session, we were covering temperance. And as you recall, temperance is this voluntary self-restraint against this excess of emotions. As you recall, this, when it's having an excess of the emotions, this is when it is problematic. Okay, so it's not that emotions are bad. It's when it's anything in excess. One of the virtues is moderation, right? So this is excess of emotions, impulses, anger, vanity, sexual desire. So this is when temperance is that moderation on having that voluntary self-restraint of the excess of the emotions. I found this quote, and this is the research department has found that these words attributed to His Holiness Abdu'l-Baha were in an unpublished English translation as of notes in German by Dr. Josephine Falschier. And so I found this really pretty awesome quote directly on this subject. So without any further ado, dear Roya Jung, could you read this for us?
Be not the slave of your moods, but their master. But if you're so angry, so depressed, and so sore that your spirit cannot find deliverance and peace, even in prayer, then quickly go and give some pleasure to someone lowly and sorrowful, or to a guilty or innocent sufferer. Sacrifice yourself, your talent, your time, your rest to another, to one who has to bear a heavier load than you, and your unhappy mood will dissolve into a blessed, contented submission to God. Abdu'l-Baha.
Isn't that a beautiful prescription?
Beautiful.
It's a prescription to immediately change anger into joy. So I think we should always have this. I would print it, you know, the moment, anytime, put it up, you know, because God knows we all get upset often, you know, that's part of life. But here, His Holiness Abdu'l-Baha says, be not the slave of your moods, you know, so this is temperance, be in control. But if you are so angry, so depressed, so sore that your spirit cannot find deliverance, then what does he say? Then quickly go and give some pleasure to someone else. I love that. Isn't that amazing? Flips the script. He says, take yourself, your mentality off yourself, give happiness to someone else. That is Abdu'l-Baha.
You know where we can find that?
I found the quote. This is the attribution. This is the research department has found that these words were attributed to Abdu'l-Baha in an unpublished English translation of notes in German.
Oh.
So that's the attribution. It's in German, but it's I found this as an authoritative pilgrim note in that sense. You know, so it is a pilgrim note, you know, but it's you know, in that aspect. Okay. All right. This is more on temperance, or my last slide on it. So, Miss Darla, could you read this one for us? Thank you.
Sure. Temperance. His Holiness Abdu'l-Baha refers to temperance as one of the inward perfections. The spirituality learned must be characterized by both inward and outward perfections. They must possess a good character, an enlightened nature, a pure intent, as well as intellectual power, brilliance and discernment, intuition, discretion and foresight, temperance, reverence, and a heartfelt fear of God. For an unlit candle, however great in diameter and tall, is no better than a barren palm tree or a pile of dead wood.
Very well read. Thank you, Miss Darla. Excellent. Dear friends, just a reminder, if you're not reading, just remember to mute your microphones. So just in case of background noise. Okay, excellent. This was a very wonderful extract from His Holiness Abdu'l-Baha and Secret Divine Civilization, where he's talking, he says, the spiritually learned. The spiritually learned. Because remember who he was talking about in Advent of Divine, in Secret of Divine Civilization. He was talking to the mullahs, the ulamas, the spiritual leaders in Persia. And he's saying this is how they should be, the spiritually learned. This is how the qualities and attributes that anyone that is of spiritual learning must be characterized. He says, inwardly and outwardly have perfections. They must possess a good character and enlightened nature, pure intent, as well as intellectual power, brilliance, discernment, intuition, discretion, foresight, and then this word that we were talking about, temperance, right? Reverence and a heartfelt fear of God. Then this is a very interesting last line. For an unlit candle, however great in diameter and tall, is no better than a barren palm tree or pile of dead wood. So if the inner life of that candle is not lit, and that it is worthless, it's only good for the fire. So that is really what he's saying. And because he was talking to the spiritual learned, the ulamas, the mullahs, the leaders, because often they did not have good characters. Often they were not characterized by these qualities that Abdu'l-Baha is referencing. So he's saying that if you are a spiritually learned, this is how you should live your life. Okay. Now, another one of these 5 qualities and attributes of a chaste and holy life is decency. Now, what is decency? Let's have a wonderful reader. Let me find someone. And the lucky person is Dear Pat McGregor. You're up. Go for it.
You mean Dennis McGregor?
Oh, I always get you guys confused. I'm so bad. I actually meant Pat O'Brien. I'm sorry. I always get I get the O'Briens and the McGregors mixed up. I love both of your families, but I get you guys always confused. So I was looking at Pat, so I'm Pat O'Brien. Sorry about that.
Okay. Decency is a behavior that is good, moral, and acceptable in a moral society. In the Baha'i faith, decent behavior complies with the universal principles and norms, as well as with the moral standards set in the writings. There are many references to the virtue of decency in the Baha'i writings. In a tablet, Baha'u'llah states, "We have permitted you to listen to music and singing. Beware lest such listening cause you to transgress the bounds of decency and dignity."
Very good, very good. So this is decency. And decency is being morally good. And that is, what is morally good, you know? That is, to some, rather ambiguous, right? But I think for most of society, it wouldn't be a virtue in that sense if we didn't have a general understanding of what it is. Because I think truly every one of us, when we are created, we have that kind of innate ability to understand these virtues, these qualities. So this is decency. And my dear friend Don, the definition is on the right. If you could read this one.
Okay. Decency, meaning, noun, the level to which someone conforms to the standards of morality or what is right.
Excellent. And some of these are qualities and attributes of decency. And you see how many of these overlap with the other virtues that we have been talking about, such as truthfulness, courtesy, honor, love, kindness. So decency is almost an encapsulation of all of them because decency is really doing what is right. And it is right to be truthful. It is right to be humble. It is right to be loyal. It is right to be trustworthy. It's right to take pride in your work. It's right to be, so this is to be decent. Okay? And so the beloved guardian, this is a very interesting slide, and this is coming from the World Order of Baha'u'llah, paragraph, page 187. The beloved guardian refers to the obscuration of the sense of decency when the light of religion is quenched in men's hearts. And I love that word, obscuration. Means it's going away. It's like how the phases of the moon going eventually becomes dark. And this is a paragraph. It says here, no wonder, therefore, that when, as a result of human perversity, the light of religion is quenched in men's hearts, and the divinely appointed robe designed to adorn the human temple is deliberately discarded, a deplorable decline in the fortunes of humanity immediately sets in, bringing in its wake all the evils which a wayward soul is capable of revealing. The perversion of human nature, the degradation of human conduct, the corruption and dissolution of human institutions reveal themselves under such circumstances in their worst and most revolting aspects. Human character is debased, confidence is shaken, the nerves of discipline are relaxed, the voice of human conscience is stilled, the sense of decency and shame is obscured, conceptions of duty, of solidarity, of reciprocity and loyalty are distorted, and the very feeling of peacefulness, of joy, and of hope is gradually extinguished. This is from the beloved guardian, talking about the dissolution of human institutions, how these institutions of decency, the institutions of really talking about how they are becoming debased. And this is the reality that we're facing. Any thoughts on this as on this paragraph or on a prior paragraph so far?
I have a question.
Please, I sounds like Bruce.
Yes, it is.
Go for it, Bruce.
So, is he saying in this paragraph that mankind or in civilizations or countries or cultures that we can go through periods of, debasement and then come back from it? Because right now, was, the world, Hitler in Germany, was that an example of just, this?
Excellent question, dear Bruce. Excellent question. I see this, and obviously anyone come in anytime. I just want to, my thought on this, because I've been thinking about this greatly. I see it's, if you put it on a linear, which is one of the most simplistic ways to look at this type of, I see the spiritual progress of humanity going, whenever a manifestation of God appears, it's at the all-time low, okay? And when he appears, suddenly there's a massive rise and injection of potentialities, massive injection of spiritual energy into the whole of mankind. Suddenly that spirituality causes a massive rise, and what happens is a massive uplift in the sciences, the arts, creation, on general. But over time, sometimes hundreds of years, sometimes even thousands of years, humanity has turned away from the light. And in prior sessions, we saw the terminology as darkness. And we see that they have turned away. And what happens is a massive degradation of morality, decadence. And this is a downward cycle. And what happens is, again, they're reaching that point of degeneracy. Then the manifestation of God appears at the lowest point again. And they appear at the worst spot, as we saw in earlier paragraphs. The worst spot, and it was in paragraphs 28 through 33. It was really, that's where they appear. And so that is when they appear, is to suddenly create that massive uplift again. And it's constant, like down and up, but it's on a trajectory of going up, a general trajectory of going up, but it's always going like that. You see? Do you follow? Am I clear on this?
Yes.
But it's like that, but they appear at the lowest point of that dispensation. Mm-hmm. But that lowest point is higher than the previous dispensations. You see?
Right.
So it's always moving in a cycle upwards. And in this dispensation, the dispensation of the Bab and Baha'u'llah, which is very interesting. This is the day is not followed by night. And this is from His Holiness Baha'u'llah. This is not the day that will not be followed by night. So we will not have that downward dip in that sense, because we're under the protection of the covenant. We're under the protection of the supreme body, the universal house of justice. So this is something that we have been gifted. But in the past dispensations, this is how the trajectory has been. Right. Any thoughts on this? But great question.
Essenjan, what you described with regards to the future, yes, that's applicable to the faith. However, the fate of mankind is a different story. And at the moment, it's on a serious decline.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, the faith of Baha'u'llah will not see the night, as in the past it has happened. But the fate of mankind is on a downward trend until, as Baha'u'llah says, it reaches a point that then something happens that the limbs of mankind will shake. So that's what we're going to see. Thank you.
Excellent point, Dr. Bai. Thank you so much. Excellent. Yes, so as I mentioned, that this is a day that not followed by night. That's a reference to the community of Baha. But in reference, as we'll be getting into upcoming sessions talking about these twin processes that are happening. So these twin processes will be explaining what is the greater plan, what is the lesser plan, and what is these simultaneous processes happening. But that's for a later session. We'll get into that. Excellent. Great question, dear Bruce. So moving on. Okay, I guess this is the last slide on decency. I thought the last one was the last one. So this is an amazing letter that was written to the youth. And I'm actually going to pull up much more of it for part 21, because this is an incredible letter that goes into really outlining the role for the youth. So this is just one extract that I pulled here, and it says, the life of a Baha'i will be characterized by truthfulness and decency. He will walk uprightly among his fellow men, dependent upon none save God, yet linked by bonds of love and brotherhood with all mankind. He will be entirely detached from the loose standards, the decadent theories, the frenetic experimentation, the desperation of present-day society, will look upon his neighbors with a bright and friendly face, and be a beacon light and a haven for all those who would emulate his strength of character and assurance of soul. And this was from the Supreme Body, and this was in a letter to the youth dated June 10th, 1966. And I'll send this letter to all of you because it's such an incredible letter that was from the Supreme Body. But it really outlines the character that it's not just the youth should have, but every one of us. Do we often have a bright and friendly face? Do we have this bonds of love to everyone that we come across? Do we walk uprightly? Sometimes we're just tired of back. It's even think about how do you walk, And it talks about how we should be characterized by truthfulness and decency. So these are extracts that I pull so that we think about our inner life. How are we conducting ourselves? Okay. So this is decency. And decency, as you recall, is acting morally good. Okay. And now I think it's our last one out of the 5. Clean-mindedness. So let me find my dear friend, Dennis McGregor. You're up. Dennis McGregor, go for it.
Okay. Clean-mindedness is a quality of our inner life. It indicates how noble our thoughts and feelings are in response to what we see, hear, or experience. The quality of our inner life plays a key role in the outcome of our Baha'i endeavors, the advancement of the cause. The beloved guardian states, not by the force of numbers, not by the mere exposition of a set of new and noble principles, not by an organized campaign of teaching, no matter how worldwide and elaborate in its character, not even by the staunchness of our faith or the exaltation of our enthusiasm, can we ultimately hope to vindicate in the eyes of a critical and skeptical age the supreme chain of the Abha revelation. One thing and only one thing will unfailingly and alone secure the undoubted triumph of this sacred cause, namely, the extent to which our own inner life and private character mirror forth in their manifold aspects the splendor of those eternal principles proclaimed by Baha'u'llah.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, dear Dennis. So clean-mindedness, this is a part of our inner life, right? Because how can none of us are telepathic that we can read each other's thoughts, but this is up to us to have clean thoughts, clean inner life. So the quality of our inner life plays a key role in the outcome of Baha'i endeavors and the advancement of the cause. And this is one of the most beautiful quotes from the beloved guardian, not by the force of numbers, not by the mere exposition of a set of new and noble principles, not by an organized campaign of teaching, no matter how worldwide and elaborate in its character, not even by the staunchness of our faith or the exaltation of our enthusiasm, can we ultimately hope to vindicate the eyes of a critical and skeptical age, the supreme claim of the Abha revelation. One thing and only one thing will unfailingly and alone secure the undoubted triumph of this sacred cause. And what is that, dear friends? Namely, the extent to which our inner life and private character, mirror forth in their manifold aspects the splendor of those eternal principles proclaimed by Baha'u'llah. That's it. Only one thing will do this. One thing and only one thing. If our inner life mirror forth in their manifold aspects the splendor of the qualities proclaimed by Baha'u'llah. That's really what it is. If we want the revelation of Baha'u'llah to manifest across this planet, we got to work on our inner life. That's what it is. So this is my last slide, dear friends, for part 12. It says, a soul grows by the exercise of human virtues and the observance of human morals. And as you always know, I always have some type of comic or media, and this is from Gandalf, the gray wizard. So Gandalf says, some believe that it is only great power that can hold evil in check. But that is not what I found. I found it is the small things, everyday deeds by ordinary folk that keeps the darkness at bay. So it's small acts. We have to work on ourselves, right? Every day. And it's, as you all know from the hidden word, bring thyself to account. So, dear friends.
Hey, Ehsan.
Yes, my dear Tesfaye, what is going on?
Well, here I have a little things that I want to make clear, because here you put on the previous slide.
Yes.
Yeah, if you turn it back and then you see that think of clean thoughts.
Yes.
And then you see on the picture, clear your mind. So when the most thing that we know is in the Baha'i faith, our heart is our home. If our heart is not clean, and then how can we clean our mind? Because sometimes, our mind doesn't understand the language of the heart.
We need to think clean thoughts. That is a practice. It's an exercise. And this is an illustration in the sense of cleaning your mind, okay? In the sense of clean-mindedness is one of these actual 5 qualities and attributes of a chaste and holy life. So this action, this practice of working on our mind, which is in essence directly connected to our heart. So how we think, because what we think often comes out of here. So if we keep this clean, often our mouths stay clean, you see? So this is also a practice on ourselves, on our lives, to keep our thoughts and our minds and our mouths clean. Because it is very easy to fall into the trap of going with the flow, or as we saw earlier, not being temperate, not practicing temperance. And when we start getting emotionally angry, we say things that we're not supposed to say. And I fall in that trap often too. And so it's something that we have to individually work on, keeping our minds clean, keeping our mouths clean, keeping our hearts clean. This is as a practice. And you saw in the last quote, a soul grows by, what is this word here? Exercise. We don't just physically exercise and work on our arms and our muscles. This is all about exercise of our soul, practicing. Every day, am I speaking cleanly? Am I thinking cleanly? It's a practice. It's not a nothing. None of this is easy, as they say. We got to practice. It takes vigilance. It takes inner effort. And
so that means we need to live a clean life.
That's right, dear Tesfa. Clean life, inner life has to be clean. That's right. That's correct. Okay, thank you. This is the end of part 12. Now we're going into part 13. And part 13 covers paragraphs, the complete paragraph of 47 through 50. Okay, I'm just going to close this one. Oh, and let me open, sorry. Let me open this one. Yeah, I got it. And I will open this one, share. Okay, here we go. Everyone can see it? Give me a thumbs up. Excellent, great. Okay, let's do this one. Now, let me full screen this. So in this section, this is was a tough, section of paragraphs, covering moral standards, frivolous conduct, prostitution of arts and literature, practices of nudism, companionate marriage, infidelity, promiscuity, easy familiarity, sexual vices, and then at the very last lines, he started reminding, denouncing asceticism, because all of these high standards, he's saying we shouldn't live an ascetic life. So this was a hard section to get into, especially with pictures, how, talking about these subjects. You'll see how I've worked on this section. So without any further ado, let us actually start reading these paragraphs. So my first reader, I'm going to call on Kathy. You're up, dear Kathy. Go for it.
Such a chaste and holy life, with its implications of modesty, purity, temperance, decency, and clean-mindedness, involves no less than the exercise of moderation in all that pertains to dress, language, amusements, and all artistic and literary avocations. It demands daily vigilance in the control of one's carnal desires and corrupt inclinations. It calls for the abandonment of a frivolous conduct with its excessive attachment to trivial and often misdirected pleasures. It requires total abstinence from all alcoholic drinks, from opium, and from similar habit-forming drugs. It condemns the prostitution of art and of literature, the practices of nudism and of companionate marriage, infidelity in marital relationships, and all manner of promiscuity, of easy familiarity, and of sexual vices. It can tolerate no compromise with the theories, the standards, the habits, and the excesses of a decadent age. Nay, rather, it seeks to demonstrate through the dynamic force of its example the pernicious character of such theories, the falsity of such standards, the hollowness of such claims, the perversity of such habits, and the sacrilegious character of such excesses.
Very well read. Thank you. Dr. Satubaya, are you there? Could you read this one?
Yes.
Thank you.
By the righteousness of God, writes Baha'u'llah, the world, its vanities and its glory, and whatever delights it can offer, are all in the sight of God as worthless as, nay, even more contemptible than dust and ashes. Would that the hearts of men could comprehend it. Wash yourselves thoroughly, O people of Baha, from the defilement of the world and of all that pertaineth unto it, God himself bears me witness. The things of the world, of the earth ill beseem you. Cast them away unto such as may desire them, and fasten your eyes upon this most holy and effulgent vision. O ye my loved ones, he thus exhorts his followers. Suffer not the hem of my sacred vesture to be smirched and mired with the things of this world, and follow not the promptings of your evil and corrupt desires. And again, O ye the beloved of the one true God, pass beyond the narrow retreats of your evil and corrupt desires, and advance into the vast immensity of the realm of God, and abide ye in the meads of sanctity and of detachment, that the fragrance of your deeds may lead the whole of mankind to the ocean of God's unfading glory.
Thank you very much. Very well read. Okay. And is James available?
Sorry, I've just got to pop away for a moment. I'll be back in a moment.
Okay.
Sorry.
Excellent. No problem. Okay. Pariajan, could you read this? Thank you.
Yes. Disencumber yourselves. He thus commands them, of all attachment to this world and the vanities thereof. Beware that ye approach them not, inasmuch as they prompt you to walk after your own lusts and covetous desires, and hinder you from entering the straight and glorious path. Eschew all manner of wickedness in his commandment, for such things are forbidden unto you in the book which none touch except such as God hath cleansed from every taint of guilt and numbered among the purified. A race of men is his written promise, incomparable in character, shall be raised up, which with the feet of detachment will tread under all who are in heaven and on earth, and will cast the sleeve of holiness over all that have been created from water and clay. The civilization is his grave warning, so often vaunted by the learned exponents of arts and sciences, will, if allowed to overlap the bounds of moderation, bring great evil upon men. It carried to excess, civilization will prove as prolific a source of evil as it had been of goodness when kept within the restraints of moderation.
Excellent. Carry on, Pariajan. Excellent.
He hath chosen out of the whole world the hearts of his servants, he explains, and made them each a seat for the revelation of his glory. Wherefore sanctify them from every defilement, that the things for which they were created may be engraven upon them. This indeed is a token of God's bountiful favor. Say, he proclaims, he is not to be numbered with the people of Baha, who followeth his mundane desires, or fixeth his heart on the things on earth. He is my true follower, who, if he come to a valley of pure gold, will pass straight through it, aloof as a cloud, and will neither turn back nor pause. Such a man is assuredly of me. From his garment to the concourse on high can inhale the fragrance of sanctity. And if he met the fairest and most comely of women, he would not feel his heart seduced by the least shadow of desire before her beauty. Such an one, indeed, is the creation of spotless chastity. Thus instructeth you the pen of the Ancient of Days, as bidden by your Lord, the Almighty, the All-Bountiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Kayvon John, could you pick this one up? Thank you.
Sure. They that follow their lusts and corrupt inclinations is yet another warning, have erred and dissipated their efforts. They indeed are of the lost. It behooveth the people of Baha, he also has written, to die to the world and all that there is therein, and to be so detached from all earthly things that the inmates of paradise may inhale from their garment the sweet smelling savor of sanctity. They that have tarnished the fair name of the cause of God by following the things of the flesh, these are in palpable error. Purity and chastity, he particularly admonishes, have been and still are the most great ornaments for the handmaidens of God. God is my witness, the brightness of the light of chastity sheddeth its illumination upon the worlds of the spirit, and its fragrance is wafted even unto the most exalted paradise. God, he again affirms, hath verily made chastity to be a crown for the heads of his handmaidens. Great is the blessedness of that handmaiden that hath attained unto this great station.
Excellent, Kevanjan. Thank you. Miss Gabrielle McGuire, please.
We verily have decreed in our book, is his assurance, a goodly and bountiful reward to whoever will turn away from wickedness and lead a chaste and godly life. He, in truth, is the great giver, the all-bountiful. We have sustained the weight of all calamities, he testifies, to sanctify you from all earthly corruptions, and ye are yet indifferent. We verily behold your actions. If we perceive from them the sweet-smelling savour of purity and holiness, we will most certainly bless you. Then, with the tongues of the inmates of paradise, utter your praise and magnify your names amidst them who have drawn nigh unto God.
Very well read. Thank you. All right. Paragraph 49. Let us go to Miss Marianne. Miss Marianne, you're up. First, we have to get you unmuted.
I have to unmute.
There you are. Thank you.
Sorry. The drinking of wine, writes Abdu'l-Baha, is, according to the text of the most holy book, forbidden, for it is the cause of chronic diseases, weakeneth the nerves, and consumeth the mind. Drink ye, O handmaidens of God, Baha'u'llah himself has affirmed, the mystic wine from the cup of my words. Cast away then from you that which your minds abhor, for it has been forbidden unto you in his tablets and his scriptures. Beware lest ye barter away the river that is life indeed, for that which the souls of the pure-hearted detest. Become ye intoxicated with the wine of the love of God, and not with that which deadeneth your minds. O ye that adore him, verily it has been forbidden unto every believer, whether man or woman. Thus has the sun of my commandment shone forth above the horizon of my utterance, that the handmaidens who believe in me may be illumined.
Very well read. Thank you. And this is our last paragraph. Let's have Miss Karen O'Brien, if you could. Thank you.
It must be remembered, however, that the maintenance of such a high standard of moral conduct is not to be associated or confused with any form of asceticism or of excessive and bigoted Puritanism. The standard inculcated by Baha'u'llah seeks under no circumstances to deny anyone the legitimate right and privilege to derive the fullest advantage and benefit from the manifold joys, beauties, and pleasures with which the world has been so plentifully enriched by an all-loving Creator. Should a man, Baha'u'llah himself reassures us, wish to adorn himself with the ornaments of the earth, to wear its apparels or partake of the benefits it can bestow, no harm can befall him if he alloweth nothing whatever to intervene between him and God. For God hath ordained every good thing, whether created in the heavens or in the earth, for such of his servants as truly believe in him. Eat ye, O people, of the good things which God hath allowed you, and deprive not yourselves from his wondrous bounties. Render thanks and praise unto him, and be of them that are truly thankful.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Karen. All right. So these are the paragraphs 47 through 50. A lot in here. So I'm going to go back in a moment to do a few highlight on a few parts of these paragraphs, but I'm just going to read this introduction. The beloved guardian addresses in greater detail than the past paragraphs in our last part the requirements of a chaste and holy life, and describes specific applications of the moral standards of modesty, purity, temperance, decency, and clean-mindedness. The beloved guardian Shough Effendi also cites a number of statements from His Holiness Baha'u'llah and Abdul Baha on the nature and implications of a chaste and holy life. In paragraph 50, this is the one read by dear Karen, it says, the beloved guardian emphasizes that the high moral standards expected in the teachings of the faith should not be confused with any form of asceticism or of excessive and bigoted Puritanism. All right. So I just wanted to highlight some points as they were being read. As first line, this is in of this section. He have chosen out of the whole world the hearts of his servants. How many times in the hidden words? Thy heart is my home, sanctify it for my descent. So he's saying out of the whole world, he's chosen your hearts, right? He explains and made them each a seat for the revelation of his glory. We have to, what? Sanctify them. Sanctify means make holy, sanctus, to make sacred from every defilement, that the things for which they were created may be engraven upon them. So I just wanted to highlight on that one. This is what we have to do. Our hearts is the home of Baha'u'llah. We have to keep them clean. Okay, other points I wanted to raise. This is in paragraph 48, okay? And right in the middle, you see, can you see my cursor? It's moving. It says a race of men right here, okay? This is in paragraph 48. This is the second time this terminology, a race of men, has appeared. You know where it comes first? It was in paragraph 28. And I'm going to read that for you because it's very interesting how the beloved guardian ties these together. So I'm going to pull that one for you because it is at the end of paragraph 28. He says, I read this. He says, a sharp distinction between that community and that people must be made. So he's comparing that community, meaning the greater society, and the American community. So he says, and resolutely and fearlessly upheld, if we wish to give due recognition to the transmuting power of the faith of Baha'u'llah in its impact on the lives and standards of those who have chosen to enlist under his banner. Otherwise, the supreme and distinguishing function of his revelation, which is none other than the calling into being of a new race of men, will remain wholly unrecognized and completely obscured. So that's the end part of paragraph 28. So now, here in paragraph 48, he is now defining more what this new race of men is, which is the entire function and purpose of the whole revelation of Baha'u'llah. He says a race of men is his written promise, incomparable in character, shall be raised up with the feet of detachment, will tread under all who are in heaven and on earth, and will cast the sleeve of holiness over all that have been created from water and clay. So this is what is this new race of men is being raised up. So I just wanted to highlight on a few of those extracts. There will be more in depth coming up. So any thoughts on those extracts, or we're good to go?
This is Riaz.
Riaz John, please.
This is Riaz Taherzadeh in Michigan.
Please, please.
On the issue of the heart being the home.
Yes.
Could someone explain the distinction between the mind and the heart, and maybe even elaborate on what can we understand of the heart means? What, I mean, we have a general idea, but could someone speak of the mind and then of the heart? So, because this keeps coming up over and over, the heart is the home for the descent of God. And so can someone expound, or a few of the friends could expound on, to better understand what is this heart, where is this heart, how it functions, so we can become aware whether our hearts are really what it should be. Thank you.
It's a really profound question, dear Riaz John. And this is something that full sessions could be on. I'm going to give it to Dr. Bait and anyone that would like to come in. This is a very profound question that the Sufis, have been trying to answer for a long time, and Baha'u'llah in Iran, 4 valleys, really gets into what the heart is. So, Dr. Bait, what is the difference between the heart and the mind? That is the question.
I think our ancestors realized that whenever we are distressed, it affects our physical heart. We feel the pain. And if you're joyous, we feel that our heartbeat changes as a result. So somehow they concluded that all the emotions that we generally have, these emotions get reflected in our physical heart. But at the same time, they believe that these emotions really are a matter of our spirit. Therefore, they came to interchangeably use heart and spirit together. So our heart began to become a symbol of our spirit. With regards to our mind, in the writings we read that it is our spirit that controls and runs our brain, this gray matter. And mind is where our intellect is, where we think about things and make decisions and so on. But nevertheless, the driver for it that initiates the mind to work on various things is our spirit. So clean-mindedness and our heart being cleansed, it basically means two aspects of our being, which is our mind and our spirit, are both should be clean. Beyond that is just our physical body, which in the writings is been symbolized as a horse, and our spirit is the one that rides it. So as you see, symbolically, they came to take heart, to be representative of our spirit. And the reason for it is that they couldn't see the spirit. They would read about it, they would be told about it, but they couldn't see it. So meditation could be understood, and at the same time having some reasonable responses to events, which is our heart really responds to events. That's as brief as I could be. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Bayat. Does anyone else want to share on an answer to dear Rios John?
Maybe Miss Pariah could have something to say.
Miss Pariah, do you have anything to say?
No, I was just sending something in the chat that inspired me about what Dr. Bayat was just mentioning, and maybe he can clarify. I believe this is from the writings of Abdul Baha, where he speaks about the mind and the spirit. And I can just quote this from the writings where it says, "The mind is the power of the human spirit. Spirit is the lamp, mind is the light, which shines from the lamp. Spirit is the tree, and the mind is the fruit. Mind is the perfection of the spirit and is its essential quality, as the sun's rays are the essential necessity of the sun." And I thought this might be helpful as a contribution to the wonderful comments that Dr. Bayat was making.
Harry John, beautiful, excellent find.
Yes, thank you.
Very good. Yes, this is a topic of the heart that is such a large subject, and even myself, I've done a compilation on the heart, and I will send it to all of you. It's on the, there's a terminology called the city of the heart, and we find this in the Kitab-i-Iran. We also find it in the Hidden Words, this terminology, the city of the heart. So I started finding it over and over, so I created a whole compilation on it to find out what this is. So I'll send that to everyone.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Of course.
This city of heart is an incredible subject. And with my wife, Sate, we conducted a whole weekend session based on the writings on the subject of city of the heart. It's just an incredible subject to open it up. And in order to really begin to get into it, you have to equip yourself with the 7 valleys and 4 valleys of Baha'u'llah and a great deal of Abdul Baha's explanations in some answered questions. And it just opens up such incredible vistas to us of actually what our spirit is and what is the city of spirit. So a city of heart. But for the time being, for practical reasons, that's all we can really conclude, that the physical heart is a symbol of our spirit, and mind is the interaction of that spirit with our brain, if you like, and with and as a result, we want them all to be in tune with clean-mindedness and clean heart.
Thank you. We have a question from either David or Kathy. Please, you have the floor.
Again, thank you, Dr. Bayat. That was a wonderful statement there from everybody. I couldn't help but reflect back on what you were just saying about this this chaste and holy life and this rectitude of conduct. And when Mr. Bayat had mentioned the race of men, the statement stood out, this incomparable character shall be raised up, which the feet of detachment will tread under all that are in heaven and on earth. It set in my mind this strength of nobility, this strength of character that this new race of men would exhibit within the station here on earth, and to walk under, to tread under all who are in heaven on earth is such a powerful statement. I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Excellent.
Yes, indeed, the faith of Baha'u'llah, according to beloved guardian, apart from wanting to create a peaceful world, a prosperous world, that everybody has everything to eat and be at peace with each other, and also everybody being in a equitable fairness to each other, equality of men and women, the highest level of learning that is possible, and so on. But all of this is one side of it. The other side is that new race of men that Baha'u'llah wants to create, which is really talking about a spirit which become worthy of reaching the court of the Lord. So at the end of all of this, that's what Baha'u'llah wants to create, a new race of men, a new types of spirits, that these spirits are so detached from everything while they are busy doing so much, that would become worthy of reaching the threshold of our Lord's court. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wonderful discussion. Thank you, Riaz-Jan. Is
yeah.
Riaz-Jan, you have another thought? Please.
Well, I just wanted to point out that the mind is easier to understand. So that's easy, relatively to understand. But it's the heart that is really difficult to grasp, because Baha'u'llah says, open the city of your heart so that you can attain such and such and such. So this opening of the city of the heart is really my question. It's this city of the heart, or the heart, that is really something I feel we should try to grasp and to understand what is meant. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Yes. What is meant here is that opening our soul to the blessings of our Lord. That's what it means. Our souls becoming receptive to all that the Lord has vouchsafed to all of us. And the rest are various expressions that some of them were pretty common. You see, the mystics in the past, they could not very openly speak about relationship with God, because if they did, it would go counter to the ultra-orthodoxies of all religions, being Christianity, Judaism, and particularly Islam. So they had to come up with language that apparently uses common day terms, but they meant something else. In the writings, anytime you see friend, it means God. They had to come up with that, because otherwise the relationship that they would say they would have with their friends would instantly justify their execution by the orthodoxies of their ages. So mystics invented all kinds of things. They talked about wine, but they didn't mean the wine that makes you drunk, but it meant the words of the Lord. Okay, they talked about the barman, or the person who dispenses drinks, but it didn't mean the person who dispenses ordinary drinks. It meant the prophet of God. So all these jargons they had to come up with to avoid being persecuted or even being executed by the orthodoxy. And Baha'u'llah because he started his revelation in the first many years of it, all in the realm of mystic writings, like the Seven Valleys, the Four Valleys, poetries of all kinds, um, gems of divine mysteries, like hidden words. He uses those vocabulary that was common. And in fact, a great number of the early believers came from that school of thought, that they were all followers of Rumi, one way or another. Okay, so it's no doubt that these expressions are hard to understand, but there is something at least like 1,000 years of history behind every one of those vocabularies. We really don't have to get into them, but if one time at the end of this course you wish to hear more, I can take you through a great deal of these vocabularies and exactly what they meant and how in our current understanding they mean, not necessarily what they meant by it 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bayat. Very enlightening on that. And this is a very big subject, dear Riaz, that you opened on the heart and the relationship to the mind. And so if you forgive me, we're going to move on, but I will send you materials and also to the class that will explore this subject for ancillary reading. And when time permits, we'll also ask Dr. Bayat later on to explore this theme, because it's a very fascinating theme of the heart. Okay, so we're going to be moving on, dear friends. Okay, let us get into some of the key points, and let me just check the time. We're good on time. Okay, let us go. Miss Dini, you're up. Okay.
Major key points for paragraph 47 through 50. The motions defined in the Baha'i faith include guidelines for their action to one's life. Frivolous conduct is a lack of seriousness in one's behavior. Any form of creative work produced to promote and sell sexual pleasure and immorality represents the prostitution of arts and literature.
Thank you, Ms. Dini. All right. Okay, and Miss Seamin, if you could kindly read, please.
Sure. Companionated marriage is a trial marriage in which the partners postpone having children until a decision is made to stay married. Otherwise, they can be divorced by mutual consent. Infidelity in a marriage means that one of the partners engages in an intimate and sexual relationship with someone outside the marriage. Promiscuity represents the practice of engaging in indiscriminate, intimate, and sexual relationships with different partners.
All right. Now, let us, Mina Jan, could you read this one for us? Oh, okay, she's just listening. Of course, no problem at all, of course. Okay, let us have Bruce. Could you read this one for us?
Easy familiarity in the form of indiscriminate kissing and embracing involving unrelated people of opposite sexes is not desirable and is discouraged. Sexual vices are habits that are considered diversions to a natural expression of the sex impulse. Baha'u'llah explicitly states that living in seclusion or practicing an asceticism is not acceptable in the presence of God.
Thank you much. Thank you, Bruce. So I just have one thought on this terminology at the top, easy familiarity. Many of you may have heard of this before, but actually this is, I studied it and researched it to death, and I could only find this in the Baha'i faith. These two words are only in the faith, unless someone could correct me and show me some elsewhere. But I only found this in the Baha'i faith, namely from the Beloved Guardian, and then in notes from the Universal House of Justice. So it's interesting that this is the creative word, how terminology comes into being, and then the standard of conduct that goes along with that is expected of us in reference to a chaste and holy life. So this is now we're getting into the applications of moral standards. So we talked about these 5 qualities of chaste and holy life. Now we're getting more into the applications of it. What does it mean? In the remainder of paragraph 47, not included in our last section, the Beloved Guardian describes specific applications of the moral standards of modesty, purity, temperance, decency, and clean-mindedness. This should be understood against this background of the increasing forces of irreligion and the acceleration of moral decay with their impact on all facets of human life. So the standard of the Beloved Guardian is up here. The world is down here. And there was a very interesting term that we started our first session with. And it was interestingly that when I presented this course to the research department of the Universal House of Justice, they highlighted one word. And you know what word that was? Diametrically opposed. And so they were trying to highlight that the standards of conduct that the Beloved Guardian is espousing in rectitude of conduct, in chaste and holy life, freedom from racial prejudices, is diametrically opposed to the degenerate standards that the general society is espousing and promoting. So this is what is in the remainder of paragraph 47. So this is a paragraph coming from World Order of Baha'u'llah. And I'm going to get someone to read this. So the lucky person is going to be Miss Valerie. You're up. There you go. Yes, the lucky reader. Go for it, Miss Valerie.
Okay. The Beloved Guardian describes these increasing forces of irreligion in one of his letters. The recrudescence of religious intolerance, of racial animosity, and of patriotic arrogance, the increasing evidences of selfishness, of suspicion, of fear, and of fraud, the spread of terrorism, of lawlessness, of drunkenness, and of crime, the unquenchable thirst for and the feverish pursuit after earthly vanities, riches, and pleasures, the weakening of family solidarity, the laxity in parental control, the lapse into luxurious indulgence, the irresponsible attitude towards marriage, and the consequent rising tide of divorce, the degeneracy of art and music, the infection of literature, and the corruption of the press, the extension of the influence and activities of those prophets of decadence who advocate companionate marriage, who preach the philosophy of nudism, who call modesty an intellectual fiction, who refuse to regard the procreation of children as the sacred and primary purpose of marriage, who denounce religion as an opiate of the people, who would, if given free rein, lead back the human race to barbarism, chaos, and ultimate extinction. These appear as the outstanding characteristics of a decadent society, a society that must either be reborn or perish.
Wow, very well read. Thank you, Valerie. So much in that paragraph. Truly, the words of the beloved guardian are blow you away. This is, I don't think he missed anything in this. There's just one problem after another, showing how decadent, how debased. And this is in World Order of Baha'u'llah, this is the 1934 or so. Was it really that bad comparatively to today? So this is, you can see how much worse marriages have. The philosophy of nudism has, all of these things has gotten so much worse. It is the weakening of family solidarity, the laxity in parental control. Was it that bad in 1930s? But the beloved guardian, his eyes are not on the 1930s. His eyes is for the whole formative age. He's seeing what is going on. He knows. He is the sign of God on earth. So he's saying these are the major outstanding characteristics of a decadent society. These are the main ones. And he says, either you continue your course and perish, or you become reborn like the phoenix. So this is what he is saying. These are the major outstanding problems. Now in this paragraph, I've highlighted, bullet pointed the major points that define the application of the moral standards. So these are the main defining points. The beloved guardian outlines specific requirements of a chaste and holy life. We're almost getting to our close, so it's been a long day for all of us. So these are the main highlighted points. Now, what are they? Moderation in dress, language, amusements, artistic and literary works. So moderation in each one of them. Daily vigilance. This was very important. Remember how many times we talked about exercising self-control, temperance, exercise self-control of our emotions. Now this is daily vigilance in the control of one's carnal desires and corrupt inclinations. Keep that in check. Daily vigilance. The abandonment of a frivolous conduct with its excessive attachments to trivial and often misdirected pleasures. So we're going to explore what this frivolous conduct is. So even there's letters to the House of Justice asking, what is frivolous conduct? So we have all of those letters, so we can explore that. Total abstinence from all alcoholic drinks, from opium, and from similar habit-forming drugs. Interestingly, you see in the writings, it says, do not drink wine, drink from the wine of love of God. So some Baha'is actually thought, yeah, we don't drink wine, we can drink beer. So interestingly, the House of Justice wrote a letter saying, no, it's all alcoholic drinks, not just wine. Okay, that's just on a funny level. But yes, it's all alcoholic drinks, not just the wine. Okay, FYI, just in case, Condemnation of prostitution of art and of literature, the practices of nudism and of companionate marriage, infidelity in marital relationships, and all manner of promiscuity, of easy familiarity, and of sexual vices. So this terminology, easy familiarity, this was also written to the House of Justice. What is this? There's also pilgrim notes on what is easy familiarity. There's actually a talk, as I sent to the class, from former member of the House of Justice, passed away, Mr. Peter Kahn, gave a talk on easy familiarity. So this topic of easy familiarity has been explored, and all the notes I sent to the class, and also there's more extracts on it. I will be presenting on that. No compromise with the theories, the standards, the habits, and the excesses of a decadent age. And lastly, demonstrating through the dynamic force of its example, the pernicious character of such theories, the falsity of such standards, the hollowness of such claims, the perversity of such habits, and the sacrilegious character of such excesses. So this is the same paragraph, but bullet pointed, so you can see it clearly. These are the application of the moral standards. So, and here I made it almost into a book. Should be your book of life. This is how you should be carrying around. So this is the specific requirements of a chaste and holy life. Are you carrying this moderation in dress, language, and amusement, artistic and literary works book in your life? Daily vigilance in our control of one's character all the time. We should be reading these books all the time and keeping them part and parcel of our character. You see, this is who we are. We are Baha'is. This is who what we believe. Okay, let me see where we are on time. 2 minutes. Yeah, let's do one last slide. This is our last slide. Unless we have a question. Any questions?
Yes.
Okay, let's have the question and then we'll close. Please go ahead.
Is that me?
Yes. Is that you, Tesfaye?
Oh yeah.
Okay, there you go. Go for it, Tesfaye.
Yeah. Okay. So there are, in the Christian monks, they are segregated from the family and they living outside the society to make clean and then themselves and a clean life. So do you think they are acceptable in the sight of God when you see this moral standard, or this is only for the Baha'is?
It's a good question, dear Tesfaye. I could never speak to who is clean in the sight of God. I am not God. So so it is up to him who is acceptable in the sight of God. But in Christianity, there is a standard. In the faith, there is a standard. There is a standard of how we are to live our lives. But we are never to judge another. That is not for ours. We are not the judge. The judge is our Lord. So, but we just have to work on ourselves. That is who we have to work on. And if we have children, we have to try to help them up to the age of maturity. And then it's really on them. But as parents, we continue to help them as much as we can. But that's really our job as individuals to first and foremost transform ourselves. Dear David, do you have a hand? Please.
I have a question.
Bruce. Please, Bruce, please.
Yeah. Back a couple of slides back, it said reborn or perish. Be reborn or perish.
Okay, yes, it's right here. Yes, at the very bottom, please.
What do you think he's saying there? I mean, do you think, I always thought, okay, the Baha'is are going to come out, they're going to teach the faith, people are going to declare, and mankind is going to go forward, I've never thought about it as if to say, but when I read what he said, look, if you're doing all of these things, if mankind is doing all of these things, which are clearly apparent today. So is he saying, hey, there's a chance you can be reborn and there's a chance you can perish. So what do you think? What do you?
I think it's pretty self-explanatory, dear Bruce. I'm not going to put words in between the lines of the Guardian. It says a society that must either be reborn or perish. If anyone else wants to throw thoughts on that, there is two processes at work, and there is the process of disintegration at play. And this process is showing the breakdown of the institutions of the old order. All of these aspects that we can see in this paragraph, showing, as you see, the spread of terrorism, lawlessness, drunkenness, fraud, corruption, degeneracy, the breakdown of irreligion, morality, all of this is this old order being rolled up.
Yeah.
Eventually, it's literally a dying out corpse. And it's had its time, it's going. And so here the beloved guardian at the end is saying, these appear as the outstanding characteristics of a decadent society. It's that corpse. The beloved guardian is saying, he says, either you go to the corpse or you go to the new life. You have a choice. He says, you can continue with that dead thing, or you come with me on this new road, this new race of men that I'm wanting to create. And it reminds me of this, when Christ said, he was walking, says, let the dead bury the dead, right?
Yeah.
This entire civilization, the beloved guardian is pointing at, is dead. And he's saying, if you want to continue down this road, this is a dead thing. He says, just let them continue. Let the dead bury the dead. If you want to, he says, if you want to be spiritually reborn, we got work to do. We got a lot of work to do if you want to, be a reborn, be a new race of men. You will see how much more work we have to do coming up. And it's just thinking of all the things we've talked about earlier, from rectitude of conduct to chaste and holy life. Then there's freedom from prejudice. And then once we got all of that armor, then there's a huge thing called teaching that we have to really do. So it's a huge monumental task. And this is daily vigilance. It's not like, oh yeah, I had that rectitude of conduct once. I thought about it, And yeah, I like that idea of chaste and holy life. I remember there were 5 things. I can't remember 4 of them, but I remember there was one of them. And I think it was temperance. And I'm working on my emotions, but I don't remember the other 4. But this is something that we have to work on every single day of our lives. Every single day of our lives. And as dear Riaz talked about the heart, it is something that we have to work on to purify, because it's the seat of his revelation. And because the heart is his seat, the seat of his revelation controls the mind. So we got to keep this thing pure, the seat of our revelation, to keep this thing pure. And that's really what this faith is about. Please, Dr. Bat has a hand, and I'm just going to stop the share so we can all see each other's beautiful faces. So.
Sure. We are seeing this as a very practical statement by the beloved guardian. And the evidence of that is in the increasingly number of failed states around the world. A society that is organized and functioning is a society that doesn't have a lot of those flaws. There's no cheating, the judiciary works, the distribution of wealth and so on is amicable. There is educational system in place. Families are strong. They are dedicated to the cause of that state. But when things begin to break up based on that list, you will find that one country after another country are becoming failed states. These are places that nothing works. And we have many of those. Don't want to mention any of them. There are many of them in Africa. We have them in South America. And we have a couple of them in Southeast Asia that going that way. So these failed states are where everything falls. And our own society in America also, if you're not watchful, democracy is just a thin veneer over our society. If we are not careful, suddenly we find that we don't have a democracy, and we wake up one morning and there is a coup taking place. Therefore, what the beloved guardian says, he says, if you want to carry on that path, you're going to be a failed state, which is really equivalent of what he says to perish, because those states people really suffer. I watched one of those revolutions in Iran, and still they are a failed state, irrespective of their military power and so on. It's a failed state. You have many of them in Africa. They are failed states. There is nothing you can do about it. You go to Yemen, you go to Sudan. There are a lot of them out there. So the alternative is that we move away from those characteristics, or at least from some of those characteristics. Then we will have the semblance of a half-functioning society. And that's what we have mostly in the world, is basically half-functioning societies, a lot of them. And the distance between them and failing is really not that much. So it's a very practical statement the beloved guardian makes. We have a choice to become part of a failed state or being reborn. Reborn is one of those spiritual vocabulary which is used in the Christian faith. Christ often talked about it. When people wouldn't follow what he was telling them, he was saying, you have to be reborn to know what I'm talking about. And these characteristics are exactly what we need to be reborn into. And otherwise, the outcome is almost given. And that's what the guardian says. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bayat. Thank you. Any other questions before we close?
I know it's late, but I quickly add this, that just before reborn and perish, just before that statement, there is the guardian, the beloved guardian mentions ultimate extinction in that line, just a line before that. So the beloved guardian on the world stage, world society, he is foreseeing the possible extinction. And this has become a reality today. For example, with climate change, this climate change can ultimately lead to extinction, or an atomic conflict can lead to ultimate extinction. So the guardian is very specific, as Dr. Bayat was saying. The guardian is realistic. He's using the terminology of our condition with in explicit terms: perish, extinction, if we follow this path on and on and on.
One example, thank you, Riaz John, excellent point. One example is humanity's greed for excesses. And we can see when how these corporations have such excesses of greed, having animals in close proximity and inhumane handling, unhygienic handling of animals is a breeding ground for diseases, viruses. And we can see, as to dear Riaz's point, this creates possibilities of planetary extinction. And this is a reality. Even the beloved guardian died himself from Asiatic flu. So this is something that it killed over 1 million people in 1957. So this is something that, yeah, these extremes of excesses of greed, and materialism that the beloved guardian is talking about create situations that can really create vast problems for all of humanity.
An apparent contradiction that Shaykh Effendi mentions is, if civilization taken to its extreme, it will lead to extinction. That's very interesting. Like a almost contradicting. Civilization taken to its extreme leads to extinction. I think what we read tonight. So this is two opposing concepts: civilization, which means prosperity, but if taken to its extreme, leads to the extinction of society. This is very, I mean, you know, the secular world is unaware of this.
Yes, in the Kitab Aqdas, the parallel sentence is freedom, which you can translate it also being an important aspect of civilization. And Baha'u'llah says, even things such as freedom, if they taken to excess, is going to bring us down. So there are many things, features that could be pretty harmful to this civilization of ours. And we see many examples. In the past, we always thought that the threat is militarism. But now militarism is really not the big one. There are much larger threats to various nations around the world than militarism. So we are going to learn more and more about this as time goes on. Thank you.
Well, dear friends, we could have sit here and have wonderful conversations throughout the night, but the hour is late. And
it's not easy, man. Being Baha'i is not means that you are safe unless you fulfill all these qualities of the moral application standards and everything.
That's right, dear Tesfaye. We got a lot of work to do,
It's a
right?
daily challenge, man.
I love it. Dear Tesfaye, would you like to have our closing prayer?
Sure.
Please, please, let us do that.
All right. Let me see. All right. Make me ready in all circumstances, O my Lord, to serve thee and to set myself towards the adorned sanctuary of thy revelation, of thy beauty. If it be thy pleasure, make me to grow as a tender herb in the meadows of thy grace, that the gentle winds of thy will may attire me up and bend me into conformity with thy pleasure, in such wise that my movement and my stillness may be wholly directed by thee.
Thank you very much, dear Tesfaye.
Thank you kindly.